Yay.
All right, we are live. Here we are, Goddess Vibrations, season 2. We're back. And I've got my co-host with me, Kirti, and we are here to talk about Upset the Setup, Feminine Uprising, which is my topic idea, her title. So it was a beautiful collaboration. And this season, we decided to put our websites in our little Zoom boxes for you so that you know where to go to right away when we're like offering things to you or referring to different things. And you can even check those websites out while you're watching at the same time. That's the cool thing about, having a computer and a phone. So here we are. And if you saw my post on Instagram, we're talking a bit about what it is to be a queen in this modern patriarchy. And Kirti and I have a lot of things to say about this. And we've already spent several hours this week together. So I'm not surprised that we still have a lot of things to say about this. Um, and before we get started, do want to invite you to a couple things. Kirti, tell them what you're offering right now, just because it's so awesome. And I've been attending this week and I'm loving it
Oh,
so
I love
much.
that.
I want you to,
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
yeah, and welcome, of course, welcome. Welcome
Hmm.
back. So excited.
Yeah, I'm just so happy to be back right now, like that we're doing this. The summer was good because it like helped rebuild the energy of like being live with presence and like on something like I'm not on social media to even feel like, oh, this is a platform that's like live right now. It feels very good for me.
Yeah.
It feeds a performer buzz inside of me. So I just want to acknowledge that feeling. And yeah, let me tell you about what I've launched here this past. This is the third month now, but it's really a membership program for my clients. And until December, I'm opening it up to people who are really called to do deep movement work and are committed to creating a weekly practice. And so we meet on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings to do purely movement, mantra, breath work practice. And then we also have full moon rituals online. And then the immediate week after the rituals, we have a satsang meetup where we can like just reflect on the ritual and be like, okay, where are we at? That was, so we're gonna have ours coming Wednesday for the last full moon, where we can just like gather again and talk through, the ritual and what was happening. So yeah, that's going on. It's online. And right now, it's really based on your interest and where you want to go with your body and your healing. So the best way to join, if this is something that interests you, is book a call with me. And you could go to my website and it says a discovery call. And we just make sure that it's a good fit for you. Most of these folks are already my clients, or they come to my classes and they know my work from workshops. So if you haven't really worked with me, but you're interested because you come to this YouTube channel and you know what Goddess Vibrations is all about, and you know that it comes down to the body, then just hit me up and let's do a discovery call. And I'll get you the link.
Yeah, I love that because I've had so many people from last season just DM me or message me and be like, I love her. I love Kirti.
Oh,
And I'm like, I know, isn't she awesome? And it's a way for people all over the world to work with you, really, if they resonate with what you're putting out here. So, and I don't even know how many episodes we did last season. I think there was like 30 or I think it was in the somewhere between 27 and 33. I don't know what the
fun.
magic number was,
And
but it
what's
just,
crazy is we could do so much more. Like we could talk forever.
oh yeah, do so much more. And I actually was going to, my intention was to start streaming it for an Apple like podcast. And I heard you have to have like 5 or 10 episodes or something like that. And I was like, oh man, I hope I have enough to talk about. It just kept snowballing and building momentum. And the guests that were on were so awesome. And I was learning so much. And just having these conversations and being a host of this show is like transforming my life and bringing so
Yeah.
much pleasure and juiciness into my life that it kind of took on a life of its own. And so I am excited that we're continuing another season, and we might actually do a little something something this season. And one of the changes that you had actually, I think, came up with this idea is to have live callers on. And I thought, well, why not give them a little live coaching session?
Yeah.
People want to get a little sample, or they want a little quick, like laser coaching help with some of these issues that they're dealing with. That, because I think a lot of the things that you and I talk about on the show are things that your traditional therapist isn't really going to cover. Even a spiritual healer isn't really going to have the same depth of knowledge of relationship science and like, relationships. We're really, really going in depth. And so and we talk about things that are pretty edgy, and not a lot of people are brave enough to kind of say in public. Speaking of what you were telling me the other day about how you just pick two words that people are uncomfortable with and shout them as many times as you can in public. So I love that. So that's kind of the essence of this show too. Of course, we're trying not to get censored or bleeped out too much. And we're not trying to offend anybody, but we're just trying to be raw and real and authentic, because the more that you are authentic, the more open you are, and the better your relationships are going to be, the better, obviously, your sexual pleasure is going to be as well. So if you are interested in being on the show live and live coached, then you can go to my website, natashaedwina.com. You see it's on there, /goddess vibrations. So it's natashaedwina.com /goddess vibrations. And there's
maybe you should rename your name that.
I should, huh?
Yeah, that's put that in, because then people could just.
Yeah, let me rename. And also I did figure out how to get my live chat going. Oh, there y'all are. Okay, Manny, hi. Steffi, doing big things. Yeah. Hi.
Oh, Steffi.
Dad saying peace, fam. Steffi saying, ooh, pick me. We might pick you today, Steffi. You might get to pop on today.
Get ready. Wait, did you say Chad too?
Chad is here too.
Yay.
Another one of our co-host. And I'm hoping he'll be back. Chad, this season. We got Megan. What time is it? Tuesday and Thursday, Kirti? 6 a.m. Just in time to
PST.
Yeah, PST.
Yeah, you know me.
This is from Megan. She's local. So yeah, I've been attending Megan. It's been amazing. The Art of Awakening says blessings.
That's Golden, I believe.
Oh, Golden. Hey, Golden. Thanks for popping in. Oh my God. All the powerful crew are here. Golden is an dancer and healer as well. And she was on our full moon call yesterday. Wow. Okay. Very cool. And I'd love to have you on the show too this season, Golden, if you're
hell yeah.
Okay. So I can see the live chat, the comments. So if y'all are with us, go ahead and say something. Say, hey, I'm going to change the name. Kirti, go ahead and take it over while I figure out how to do that and put the link in here.
Yeah. I'm so excited about our opening topic of upset the setup, the rise of the divine, the uprising of the divine feminine. And really what I feel like that's so perfect, because little did we know, I wasn't really thinking about the full moon in Aquarius, but of course, the beauty of divinity, the way it works is everything's always connected. And so, yeah, we were like revisiting this full moon energy of Aquarius, which is about, bucking the system, thinking outside of the norm, doing things in a way that you've never done them before. And at the same time, what's beautiful about tension, right? In the tantric lens, what's beautiful about tension and what's beautiful about, prepping for orgasm is the constriction, the contraction of the muscles. The intensity of the contraction actually allows for this amazing expansion and explosion of limitless possibilities. Really, it's like thinking of doing things in the ways that you couldn't before, which feels very Aquarian, right? So it's kind of cool that they are aligning the topics how they aligned. And I know you were saying, Natasha, that it was like, wow, a lot of the feminine energy and wanting clarity on feminine energy. And again, in this world where parents are dealing with school systems about this, like the gender pronouns, and then there's like just a huge upsurge of the talk of feminine and masculine energy and what that means. But really, what does it mean to raise the feminine energy on the planet? And really, right now, for the level of masculine wounding that we're all dealing with, um, the feminine energy, there's no choice. It's like I feel like this is a demand. It's a call to all beings on the planet to work on our feminine energy. And if we could like unite forces together as, human beings, we could really affect some really awesome change right now. So that's why Upset the Setup, it's like the setup is very wounded and it's very masculine, and the wounded masculine to me is the patriarchy. And so that's why I thought like getting clear on what does it mean to raise the feminine energy on the planet. When we say that, like, does it mean like women's rights and women's power, or does it mean a rise to emotional presence, to healing, to flow state, to creativity, to the child, to the earth, to the 5 elements and the integration, right? And for me, that's what raising of the feminine is all of us as beings on the planet right now tuning into that energy. And the setup is not that right now. The setup is not that. And every day we're getting shown we're getting blasted with different perspectives of what is the setup. And we're constantly having to question, like, where do I stand? What do I believe in? Who am I? And I mean, that's so powerful. It's like the tension that's building for that complete, amazing expansion. And so I think the masculine, we are in this place of like getting into fight, flight, and freeze. But the truth is there's something gorgeous about that, because it's like also getting ready for a rebirth. It's also getting ready for an orgasmic explosion of new ideas.
Yeah.
So we've got to upset the setup so that we can feel this tension and get really clear on what the tension is. What is the equal and opposite we're playing with? And when we can get clear on what the equal and opposite is that we're playing with, it's like it's this wave that gets created. So it's like, okay, we have the opposite sides of the spectrum. And the more we do the work, we come together to feel like the contraction before we can expand again, to feel the contraction before we can expand again. And this wave-like energy, I feel it in the body, and I feel like it just is what shows sign of life. I mean, this is what you see on the health monitor, on the heart rate monitor, right? If you see a flat line, it's just like, that's probably not a good sign. So for me, Upset the Setup is about that. It's about raising that feminine presence on the planet.
Yeah, for sure. And you brought up so many good points. The first thing I want to say, though, when you talked about integration, your morning practice is that for me, because I'm constantly swinging back and forth between being masculine dominant, feminine dominant in my energy, especially, as a single mom and making money and then nurturing and all of these things. And there's certain things where like my masculine was suffering, for instance, lately, because I couldn't stick to a morning routine. It was just like every morning was kind of chaotic, and I needed that a little bit more flatline, like a little bit more consistency. So just waking up with you on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 a.m., knowing I have to get up because there's people there that I committed to, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to start moving my body and swirling my hips and doing some poses, and you always change it up and make it different. And I'm like, after my days go so much better on the days, that we have class, and I look forward to it. Like, so for instance, tomorrow morning, I'm like, oh, little notifications on my phone. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to wake up at 6 or 5:30, really.
It really serious.
Yeah, to be ready, but it's been so good for me. And then it's helping me sleep better. But also, it's not making me too masculine. It's not making me too rigid. It's not making me too linear, because that's just enough structure. And then what it's doing is opening up the flow in my body. So you probably even noticed on Sunday at your class, my body was moving a lot better than it's been the last couple weeks, because the flow is coming back again, right? It's like unthawing some. And so I feel that integration internally within me. And as we know, as above, so below. And so as we do this internal work in our own bodies, it radiates out, and we do it in our partnerships with our feminine or masculine dominant partner. And then we switch back and forth, even in those energies, and
Mm-hmm.
then out into the world with this masculine world or feminine world. And like you said, those feelings of softness. And I think one of the big misconceptions about feminism, or at least modern day in this fifth wave feminism, is that people think that women are trying to compete with men. And perhaps some women are. They're like, I'm like a bad bitch, and there's nothing wrong with being a bad bitch. But you don't have to be if that's not how you're feeling. Like you can be whoever, whatever kind of, person you want to be. And it's about being in your power. So being authentic and allowing space for the softness, as well as the like get shit done kind of thing. And that honed in like laser focus. And I feel like there's the feminine that wounds, and then there's the masculine that wounds. And I know that you and I were having a conversation with some of our conscious brothers and Steffi about what goes on, particularly with men that grow up with single mothers, and some of the wounding that happens with men that have single mothers. And it's partly the mother, but it's also partly the fact that she's having to be both masculine and feminine. So she's like having to juggle both, and then he comes into his partnership now, next generation, and there's still a deficit, right? It hasn't been
Right.
healed. It hasn't been balanced. And he's bringing that wounding from uh, his situation. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with men who grew up with single mothers. You could have a two-parent household and have just as much wounding too, in different ways. But we were talking specifically about what happens a lot of times with men with single mothers that are overburdened, that don't have enough support
Yeah,
to.
I mean, you could also think of it as mothers, just who have to show up repeatedly in the masculine as well as the feminine role,
Yeah.
even in any family dynamic, right?
Right.
My
Yes.
father was deaf. My parents were together, but I feel like I just started getting to know my father, like maybe when he turned 70, 71
Wow.
is when we first started to be, I was like, and I think last year or 2 years ago, he finally shared like his childhood story with me from his perspective. So definitely, lots of walls up, and it was almost just like, okay, roommate's my caretaker in a lot of ways.
Well, and men start to soften in their older years. I know I started having those healing conversations with my dad when he went through a second divorce, and that was
Mm,
just a few years ago. And now our relationship, I mean, so much healing has happened because he and I were finally able to talk with no like conflict with another woman, no alcohol, nothing in between our relationship. And that's when the healing and the intimacy started with my dad too, like the realness started. And we've been able to create this beautiful relationship in the last couple of
mm.
years, which have done so much healing for my relationships with men, because that piece, was still off. That energy was off. And so the way that we do this, and then, yeah, like I was going to say, like your example with your dad, it could have also been somebody who, like a father that worked too much, or was physically ill, or alcoholic, or a substance abuser, and they didn't show up, and they weren't taking responsibility either. So to your point, that leaves the mother, in overly masculine responsibilities, or more so in her masculine, trying to provide and protect and bring in the resources and all of this stuff. And I don't want people to think that that's a gender role. We're assigning gender roles, but typically that's how our society has been
Yeah,
oriented.
well, it's kind of set up that way. So,
Set up.
to like,
Talk
yeah, to be
about.
successful at it, you feel like you have to mold into those definitions.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big part of upsetting the setup, is to realize that, like, I don't want to be that definition. I don't agree with that definition. Like, I don't want to have to be a successful man and have to, like, drive a nice car and have a six-figure job or above, and have super, like, investments, and like, that there's multiple levels of success and multiple representations of abundance.
Uh-huh.
And nature teaches us that, if we look out into a beautiful garden, it's never like, you're never just like, oh, there's just far too many yellow roses here. Gosh, these daisies, like, nah, there's not enough space for these daisies. Like, what's that tree doing? Come on. Like, really? You're just going to give all this shade? It doesn't really work that way. We see it all as like, wow, look at how amazing nature is. Well, we have to upset the setup. We've got to start bringing that mentality back into how we live within the system. The system has really led us. And when I say the system, I mean literally, if you're getting a paycheck and you're like, you're paying taxes, you're voting, you're doing things. I mean, you're putting gas in your car. Shit, you're going to the grocery store. You're involved in the system. We all are. You pay rent, you pay mortgage. I don't give a fuck. Like, you're in the fucking system. It's like, unless you're living on the land and you have a well, and you have, like, I don't know, you've devised amazing solar power electricity throughout your property and you're eating off of the land, like, you're in the system. So it's like, as we navigate that, to upset the setup with the feminine energy is really about how do we use the restrictions of the system to, like, think outside of the system and do things differently, and work the same very code that they're almost they/we, because we've allowed it to go down this long, but that same code, right, where it's like, okay, well, like, you have to do this, this, and this. How can we take those regulations, and one, be really aware of where those regulations come from, so do your research and know, like, the root of where that comes from, but then also flip the code by raising the feminine energy. So by getting creative with an approach, by banding together, by coming up with, like, collective consciousness, healing energy, creating community events where people are able to talk freely and they're able to practice expression, where people are able to move their body, where we're able to do things differently in public spaces. I don't care what you do.
Everybody's taking notes right now. She just used, like, 4 bullets. Okay, go over them again. You said move your body.
I said, like, oh shit, I don't even fucking know. Get creative.
You are one of the most creative people I know, because you're always, like, harvesting the kundalini, probably. You said get collaborative, like, get together, have events.
Oh, community events. Like, these are all ways to bring in feminine energy to upset the setup.
Yeah.
Get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they're ways to, we were talking about this last night on our call, and it's like, what's beautiful about this awakening is that I really feel it's going to be about consciousness, and those of us who are able to understand the depth of freedom and liberation that is available to us, should we band together, it's going to finally be a place where, like, it's not all about race and power, but it's about consciousness and awareness of, like, birthright of humanity. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are on the precipice of something really, really huge. And so this is the time, if any, to bring awareness to awaking the feminine energy on the planet. And in order to do that, we've got to awaken the feminine energy within us. Right? And this is not, again, it is not, it's like over and over again. I don't know why it has, I mean, I guess because it's feminine, masculine, and everyone thinks female, male. I guess I can see why it becomes that. But let's start thinking of feminine and masculine energy as full moon and new moon. Let's think about it as two different perspectives of the same object, right? It's like, it's not an this or that, it's this and that. And we want to think of the feminine and masculine as a seesaw, like, and right now, a lot of what's happening is just, like, fucking holding it down. We need to balance, you know. You had talked about feminine wounding. And
Mhm.
I really love this concept because I also want to explore a different way of maybe looking at feminine wounding. Like
Mhm.
on acknowledging that it's like, fuck, there's shit that needs to heal here. It's like that wisdom, that intuition that is bringing awareness. But also, if it's a seesaw, you know, and if you look at this motion, it creates a wave of energy off of my fingertips, even this movement. If it's a seesaw, you know, it's we're always just bringing balance to one another. And if anything, the masculine is always on the front line. It's wounded. The feminine is always here to repair and balance those masculine wounds. And no matter what we put in the feminine soil of Gaia, of Earth, the energy of the soil is able to take and transmute and take what's needed and communicate and does its thing of nature. So the mother is always able to take and heal whatever we give to her.
Mhm.
And to be able to trust that the feminine energy can always take whatever the masculine is like carrying as a burden,
Mhm.
whatever the masculine is shielding, taking those burdens, turning them to blessings, all
Mhm.
the ways that we're protecting, you know what I'm saying? Turning them into empowerment.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
feminine can do that. And if we, you know, we just want to always balance that seesaw of power that's going on within us. And we live in a society where we're really having to be way more masculine than feminine. So we just need to give a little bit more in the feminine part of the seesaw. Give that energy a little bit more weight. And the feminine energy is the full moon energy, right? So like give a little bit more weight in what needs to be released and what needs to be, you know, transmuted. And everything that happens during the new moon is like really in service to the feminine, bringing more feminine into any masculine wounds that any of us are feeling, really.
Yeah, I mean, as you're speaking, it's so brilliant, the whole piece about the, you know, the front lines and the feminine really being able to take whatever burdens the masculine is carrying. 'Cause it's so true. It really is. And who is on here that was talking about, oh, it was Atome was on YouTube, and he was saying that women have 15 times the pain tolerance of men, you know, physical pain tolerance. Our bodies are built for childbirth, right? And so, and he's like, I don't doubt that it's emotional too, that they have that emotional pain tolerance. And there is, not saying that come and hurt us, but it's like we can handle these, we can handle things. We have to redefine the way that we look at strength, right? It's a
Right.
different types of strength that we come into these bodies, these human bodies with. And
Oh, and in female bodies, the stronger we get in touch with the feminine energy in a female body, meaning or you have had a, you know, vagina and breast, nipples, chest. You know, some of us have uterus, some of us don't. Some of us have breast and nipples, some of us don't. But we all have a memory and a cellular memory. You know, that phantom limb concept of all of that intricate working for generations inside of us. We can access that.
Mhm.
That's what gives us the potential to manage that pain capacity that you're talking about. That's what gives us the capacity for the pain. I know I totally cut you off
The
right there,
energy
by the way.
body. Yeah, it's the energy body for
Yeah.
sure. And so what I was thinking of too, like as you brought up the moon metaphor, is even just using the sun and moon metaphor is
Right.
we're stuck in a patriarchy, which means that it's always summer, right? And winter never comes. And there's, you know, that might be fun for the sun, but it's not always so fun for the moon, who wants a chance to shine. Or, you know, even thinking it equals out at the solstice. So there's a season where, you know, we're more in our masculine, maybe the summer. And then there's a season where we're more in our feminine, the winter, where we have to go underneath and go inward and start to, you know, grow seeds or take roots or whatever else, repair, rest,
Yes.
digest. And, you know, looking at our own lives, in our own personal energy, are you out of balance in those seasons? And then in our world, we've been out of balance in those seasons for like 5,000 years. We've been stuck in more of that, patriarchal summer. And so now we're just at a solstice point where we're starting to like even it out, and it's probably gonna swing back a little more, to the feminine until it totally like evens out, and then probably keep swinging.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say too, Kirti, another guest taught me this. If you are on your computer right now and you want to open up your phone to YouTube, the link,
Oh,
the comments
I
too.
can do that.
Yeah. So if
Oh,
any,
because are there questions? I'm not even, are there questions and things
well,
or?
I mean, I'm trying to keep an eye on it, but okay. So
Okay, I'll do that. I probably have to turn my volume all the way.
yeah, and Golden is saying, bless up. Oh, yeah. I think I was talking about her having her on the show. We got Rob Hayes music. Thanks for dropping some hearts. Speaking of creativity, go check out his YouTube. He's an amazing artist, and got some amazing videos. And actually, Rob and I were talking about Prince. And Prince says, and I know your partner Shofar is a huge Prince fan, like I am.
Yes.
It's one of the many things Shofar and I have in common. And Prince talked about being creative as a way to upset oppression,
Oh yeah.
to hold on to your power. He says the same thing, just even changing the words. He would write, he'd change words around, and I know Shofar does that too, and he's also a poet. But just changing words around, and you do that too. You say, I'm tired of this word. Like, what other ways can I say this word that's now become a meme or a buzzword or whatever else? And Prince said that. And if you read his book, actually, it's right up here. What is it? Oh, The Beautiful Ones, right here. The Beautiful Ones. It's the book that was being written as he died. And when you read the book, there's a large open area of suspicion that they left open, because his intention for writing the book was to disclose all the bullshit he's seen in Hollywood all these decades. He was ready to,
Oh shit.
spill. He was ready to spill. And that was the intention for the book. And
Yeah, I thank
somehow
God.
he died in an elevator 3 months later,
Fuck.
3 months into the book. So it does tell a little bit of his philosophies, and it actually has photographs of some of his original lyrics, like handwritten, and some of his stories from high school. It's a really beautiful book if you're a Prince fan. And the reason I bring this up is because he's been dropping gems since the 80s, I guess, late 70s. I don't know when he first started performing, about how to empower women, empower people of color, empower these folks. And he did it through drawing attention to his sexuality, through confusing people, through shocking people, through attracting people, through his amazing genius and talent of his music. I think he could play every instrument. And so how can you be more like Prince? There's not going to be another Prince, but how can we all be more like Prince? And he was way ahead of his time, and I feel like
Yeah.
he's still supporting us from the afterlife.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely, embodying Prince for Aquarian full moon is pretty powerful, and it's definitely about raising the feminine energy on the planet. He's a real amazing divine representation of that. And yeah, I mean, he's not the first, artist to want to expose the truth
Mm-hmm.
and get, quote unquote, punished for
Mm-hmm.
doing that. And
But he
there's so
fought
many of
back.
us that know that, and there's so many of us that still to this day, don't believe that, and we're not willing to question. And I think that that's kind of the other piece of Upset the Setup, raising the feminine energy on the planet. I'm kind of feeling like I'm getting a little charged up, just letting you know.
Yeah.
Another part of like raising the feminine energy on the planet is to like fucking question the goddamn system. Like, question.
Yeah.
Question. It's like we all listen to artists that write lyrics about questioning the motherfucking system, and we bump that shit at our beach parties and our fucking 4th of July parties. But yet we don't fucking question the system, and we just walk around like following everything. I'm always amazed. I'm like, artists are such a muse. However, it's like, what will it take for the artist message to be absorbed by collective consciousness of humanity? because the very things that we love artists for, we don't actually really adopt. Like, we still make them artists because we
Except
think
for
of
the
them as other than ourselves.
violence.
Like, the truth is, like, no, like, be inspired by the art and now do your own shit. Like, buck the system in your own way. Like you just said, how are you being Prince? You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Like, how are you changing the way you speak to yourself in the mirror every day? Like,
yeah,
what is your move that's your fucking assless pants? You know, where it's like you're just showing your ass. Like, are you shaking your ass in the mirror and looking at it? What could you do that's a little bit more Prince-like?
yeah,
But the truth is, what people do is like they put that shit up on a pedestal or they put it in a fucking frame and
yeah,
hang it up
yeah.
and never engage with it. And this is why artists a lot of times are like, I'm not your fucking monkey.
Hmm.
Like, if you're really inspired by me, make a change, do something different, be your
Hmm.
own artist, you
Hmm.
know? And that's feminine energy.
Yes.
That's what artists really understand, is that this level of creativity,
Hmm.
that is the feminine energy that we are calling for everybody to get into, like, your weirdest version of yourself that upsets the setup and the norm of the foundation of this country, which is straight, white, colonizing male
Hmm. Hmm.
mentality.
Hmm. Values, priorities. Yeah, for sure.
What are you doing that's shaking up that core structure? You
Yeah,
know?
or at least questioning it, like at least questioning it. Like let's start there. And I feel like I always have to be the one to like put out the disclaimers, nothing against white men. We love white men too. And there's Chad, who, one of our favorite white men, 100%, 100%, 100 all over the comments. So
I
um,
always say, like, they're my dogs, my down ass white
yeah, what's your
girls, my down
acronym?
ass white guys,
Okay.
my raw dogs. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I know, and when I say white, and I'm talking about patriarchy, like, just to be clear, for those of you who maybe do need that, maybe it sounds like, oh my God, she's so hateful and she doesn't like white people. I'm talking about the historical structure of power and economy of this country that has influenced every single structure from the day the colonizers arrived. That's
Mhm.
what I'm talking about when I'm talking about white patriarchy, you know, just to be clear. And anybody who's willing to question that, like, let's go. Yes, welcome to the Rainbow Tribe. Welcome to the tribe of upraising and uprooting, like, all the trapped divine feminine on the energy. Welcome to waking up and removing the veil
Mhm.
that's leading us to think that, like, we have to be like somebody else to be liked or be accepted, that we have to, I don't know, go outside of what our intuition says or what our body feels,
Yeah.
because there's a law that determines it that was created outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is questioning the system, shaking up the system, not starting shit with people. Like we're not mad at people unless you're upholding the system ignorantly. But we then we were like, still gonna be loving to you, but not really want to have anything to do with what we're not picking up what you're putting down. But yeah, questioning the system, like having complaints against the system, not people. So what I know about
Yeah.
you, Kirti, of all people, you're one of the most loving and gentle and soft and just like, I mean, you're so sweet, and the way that you communicate is always so loving, and yet you have all this fire too, right? So I think that's really important to understand, and I think that's one of your gifts in the work that you're doing on the planet, because you can possess both. You are digestible as well, just like Prince was very digestible. He had a lot of qualities to him that made his message, it lived on, and it still lives on through his music. He was always very adoring of women, even though he was censored and his work was so sexual, but it was always an adoration, never putting women down. So we are not against we are against violence. We're all about love and unconditional love, but just questioning the system. And Golden is saying, let's see, the art of awakening. Mother Earth is such a gorgeous embodiment of divine feminine. The feminine naturally rises up from her body right through our bodies. Yeah, I totally felt that
Mm.
yesterday after dancing in my bare feet in the park, and then Shavasana that you led us through, Kirti. And just that short couple of hours, my whole day was different. My whole body felt different by evening. I felt so peaceful. And his
Mm.
dad he's got lots of laughy emojis and peace and prayers and everything else on the
Yeah,
comment
he's
board.
probably laughing at the fact that like we even need to explain just like
That we
down as
have to
white people.
have
It's
to
true,
explain. Yeah.
but I get it. It's like everybody's got level of shame and guilt in their body, and it's all about our souls chose you know this physical form in this lifetime. Those of you who know me have heard me say this so many times, right? It's like to experience, different levels of shame and guilt. But the truth is that at the end of the day, however our body experiences any of those emotions, that's what makes us have empathy with each other. So we don't want to like act like we don't have those emotions. When
Mm-hmm.
we act like we don't have those emotions, that's what creates the dynamic of othering. That's what creates the dynamic of judgment and shame and guilt. But once we're able to be like, oh shit, like fuck, I'm maybe, I might deal with the norm as a South Asian, woman of color,
Mm-hmm.
and that might be like my access to and like how I've had to deal with being outside of the norm. And somebody else is like a Latino who is homosexual, and first generation American, and we have like some perspective, something that we've experienced that aligns us. Or I might meet another woman who grew up working class, with a father who was emotionally closed off and a
Mm-hmm.
mother who was very, submissive on the outside, but super powerful, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I can totally have empathy now. Once I get clear that I have that emotion, I can have empathy with somebody else who has that emotion regardless of race.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? And when we do that, when we're able to understand each other's struggle, and understands means understand, inner stand, like all around stand, just like really being able to embody and feel those emotions that comes with experience, and
Mm-hmm.
like witnessing and really courageous diving into your feelings. When we're able to do that and two people do that,
Mm-hmm.
we build this amazing energetic momentum that it builds cohesion,
Yeah.
not separation, but it actually creates cohesion.
Yeah.
So it's this interesting dynamic of life, according to Tantra, that is pretty much that we are born separated, and
Mm-hmm.
then we live life learning how to come back together, and we experience that tension of like, oh my God, the collective consciousness, unconditional love, poof, and boom. And that is what is the inhale and exhale of existence. That
Mm-hmm.
is the Ida and the Pingala around the Sushamna channel of alignment, right? That is the Shiva and Shakti. That's the seesaw that's just creating. And if you look at tuning forks, and you look at sound waves, and you look at light waves, and you look at fucking energetic waves, and you look at biofield waves, everything is doing this. Look
Mm-hmm.
at ocean waves.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all in front of us at all times. So if we could just like connect with each other's waves and
Yeah.
understand where each other is at on their wave of emotion, and be willing to do our own work so that we can hold space for people as they're navigating the wave, then we actually begin to heal each other,
Yeah.
right? And that's feminine energy.
Yeah, and I firmly believe, being trained in trauma, and how to many different methods to heal trauma, that you have to have done some trauma healing of your own to be able to hold space. Otherwise, you're too triggered every time you see this. Like you said, the shame. Oh, I'm shame. I'm feeling shame. Now I'm triggered. Now I'm shut down. Now I cannot engage with what you're saying. I can't see your point of view. Or, oh, somebody's talking about their abuse. I'm triggered. I can't handle it. I can't, we can't hold space unless we've dealt with our own issues. And once we've dealt with our own issues, then we don't get so triggered. We're like, oh man, yeah, fuck, I remember when that happened to me too. I feel you, and you can actually
Yes, I
hear.
think that would be another thing to for if anybody who is taking notes. It's like another way to like have a feminine energy uprising with upset the setup is what you just said.
Yeah, well, and this is what we practice in my group, that my mind body healing, my virtual mind body healing group, that it starts September 13th. It's we sit in a circle and we share our own experience, and you practice holding space. You share and then somebody shares and you hold space. You learn this high level communication, and it very deeply and gently lifts trauma. It's a really great
Mm.
way to heal trauma. But these groups, when they first started doing them, it's an evidence-based protocol 25 years ago. They were doing well, they started the organization 25 years ago, but they were doing them with different religious sects on different sides of the war in Kosovo. Like, they were all in the same group. So if you could get those folks together and find some commonalities and some compassion, I feel like anybody could do it. So the group is called Inclusion,
Mm.
because everybody's welcome, and don't care like what your race, what your gender, what your trauma is. It's a space for us all to heal together. And you said something really beautiful yesterday, Kirti,
Mm.
that was really unique, and I'm not going to be able to remember it. Maybe you will, but it did have to do with the unity, and how I think it had to do with like what's happening right now, and that we're getting really close to finding this place where race doesn't matter anymore. You said something about that. I don't know if you remember exactly what it was. I can't remember what we were
I
talking
just
about.
said and I was kind of saying that earlier too. It's just I think that what's really uplifting about this level of awakening that's happening is that I'm finding that it's just happening across all of
The
the
awakening.
otherings or across all the
Yeah.
isms, if you would
Yeah.
like to put it that way. It's like across economic status, like those people
Mm.
who are questioning are of all levels.
Yeah.
It's like when you get to, what people are questioning around the healthcare system, it's just like accessing all levels of economy and
Yeah.
social income. I mean, I say income. And then also, across race, you're seeing it like
Mhm.
there are all different types of people who are questioning or not questioning different protocols that are coming down the line. And then also, even I would say among my queer friends, I have complete different perspectives on all
Yeah.
ends. Like,
See that too.
this really is a deep mirror to me. This time is a really, really deep mirror.
Mhm.
And it's not about me choosing sides. Um, Actually, it is about me choosing sides. The
Well, it
side that
could.
I'm choosing, is my sovereignty.
Yeah.
So anything that questions my birthright is gonna put up a red flag for me.
Yeah.
So, and so anything that questions my birthright and doesn't give me, enough facts, where there's not a deep interwoven, um, like highly elite agenda
Mhm.
that roots back to slavery and
Yeah.
colonization, like.
Well, people don't see the deep connections. Like, people, that what I realize is people just don't think systemically. You do, because you're an energy medicine person. Shofar is an energy medicine person. I'm trained in family systems. Chad is trained in family systems. We think systemically, so it's easier for us to see these interconnections, these patterns. But I realize systemic thinking is a feminine energy as well. It's
Yeah.
holism, it's holistic. Whereas linear and analytical thinking, and looking at, like, let's focus on the arm, and we don't care what else is going on in the body. Like, oh my gosh, we got to put the medicine on your arm, and rather than, taking it internally or whatever else. It's a different way of thinking. And what you said yesterday, which was making me laugh, is like, because of everything happening right now, the fake ass busters are going to drop down. And I guess I don't know what you called the
I
other
said
one.
the real deal Holyfield.
Oh, the real deal Holyfield are going to be up here. The fake ass busters are going to be.
The ones who like get it, the ones who understand it's a dance. You get it?
Yeah.
Because like to me, boxing, I love it so much. Shout out to Chad. Um, but like I love boxing so much. I have for years, decades, really. I would sneak watch it because it was like so not so like an Indian thing in my household to do. But it's like a dance, and so I'm always like, the people who are fake, like they keep trying to bite They trying to like gather other people's concepts and visions, and they're riding on looking for validation outside of themselves. But the more you get real with who you are and realize your own movement and your own dance, like in your purpose. So if you're a doctor, like what's your dance? What's your feminine uprising dance? Like what's your rain dance? When you get to the hospital, how are you questioning? How are you actually thinking about the things that people are having you do that you agree or disagree with? And when you feel misalignment, how are you dealing with that? Or are you just writing over it over and over again every time something strikes you as odd or wrong or weird? You get what I'm saying? If you're a teacher, like how are you dancing into your classroom every day? How are you bringing in the feminine energy of like, hey, how can we look at this different? How can we teach it a little bit different every day, right? No matter what your field is, how can you step in and walk into it as a different experience every single day?
Well, and that's
the real deal Holyfield.
That's the real deal Holyfield, and you'd have to be a tremendously abnormally almost non-human powerful person to be able to do that without community. And so you do need the like-minded community. Going back to community events, virtual things. Like I am now that I withdrew from my PhD temporarily, hopefully, I am getting connected. Like I am finding new communities to connect with that are like-minded. And I want to say that the sovereignty thing is so important, whether we're talking about healthcare, health freedoms, just civil rights. It's just like it goes to everything, not only, like you said, the roots of slavery and actually enslaving people, but also just even in your relationships. Like you cannot have a healthy relationship if you are not standing in your sovereignty. It will crash and burn. It's called fusion, emotional fusion. You merge with another person and you both forget where your boundaries are. And when you don't have that sovereignty, your relationship just turns into like a whole like big bunch of mush, basically. And that's when people start having affairs because they're trying to figure out who they are. So they have to like pull themselves out of this bucket of mush and they add something else in. Or if it's in your family and you've become emotionally fused and you're like this, and then somebody tries to pull away, they can't. It's like, get back here and be in misery with us, like lobsters in a pot. You see it now in society. You have to do this or you're crazy, or you have to do this. Even friggin' Kirti, you're not on Instagram anymore. There's a TikTok radio station on XM radio. So this is my awareness today, which is frightening. I look on XM radio. I don't even know what station it used to be, but now it's TikTok radio. I'm like you don't hear the same 3 songs enough on TikTok. Now we got to have it on XM radio too. And so on Instagram, there's the reels, right? And there's like 3 songs that are trending that are like a TikTok fad. Somebody makes up the dance and then everybody recreates it and puts their own little thing. So you have everybody from 13-year-olds to like grown ass doctors that are on there getting their message across by doing like these things. And they're like all doing the thing. And it's kind of cool to watch, but after you've seen it like 35 times from all the same, I'm like, what is going on? I don't even think I could bring myself to do that, because it's so much conformity. It just goes against my nature. It makes me feel so weird. And I'm not like being judgmental to the folks that are jumping on the trend, but I'm just looking at the phenomena of like how enmeshed and how our whole society is like fused. Like we latch on to this group think, or this, we have to do the same thing together, and that's just like the thing to do. And it's not healthy. Because
it's interesting. You really bring up a powerful point here about humanity, that is like, it's just like bubbling right now inside of me. And it's really about, this idea of culture, and the word culture is the word cult. And we've talked about this even before too. And it's like, there's a code, there's a sacred code. I mean, what they're doing is a mantra. They're literally performing a mantra with their body. It's a TikTok mantra.
Mm-hmm.
One person creates it from their Shiva consciousness out of
Mm-hmm.
Shakti creativity. Their
Mm-hmm.
Shiva consciousness is like, boom, it's like this move over and over, right? Whatever you did,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to
I don't
mimic
know
it.
that. Obviously, I
Um,
don't know the dance because I'm not participating in the
right. So see, this is actually like I'm about to go deep for a second. Some of you might be like, yo, you fucking crazy. I'm out. That's
Well, thanks
cool.
for the
Like, peace
disclaimer.
be with you. Not everything
You
I
can
say
just
is
go
gonna
to bed now,
resonate.
everyone. No, just
Yeah.
kidding.
It's like not
Please
everything I
stay.
say is
Just get
gonna
another
resonate
glass of
with
wine.
you. I still love you, and this is just like my belief, but it's the exact same thing when we make a series of combinations of movement and we have an intention and we set an intention to what we're doing with that movement. And if we repeat it over and over again, we are literally changing like how we are moving energy around our body. And so
Mm,
this is exactly what is causing like that. This is like a brainwashing. Now,
mm,
you could say, okay, Kirti, but yoga class does the same thing and people walk out of there and like everyone's doing the same movements. Exactly. This is why I'm saying the answer ultimately is like do whatever you need to do, but ultimately you need to get to
be
a place
aware of what's
of,
happening.
of free movement
Yeah.
where you're actually exploring what your own body is creating and repeat that as a movement mantra for yourself, creating
Mm-hmm.
your own intentions. This will help you not conform, but it
Mm-hmm.
will help you reenact the sacred code of authenticity and artistic creativity and feminine energy and kundalini.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If you always buying your clothes from a mall, like I love y'all, no judgment, but like it's just a metaphor, just an example. But like if you always going to a mall and it's like you buy your shirt and like there's 20 other versions of that same shirt behind, it's like that is conformity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go to the mall or you go to a thrift store or you go to like a garage sale or you get a hand me down or there's a clothing trade, there's some sort of barter and you get a shirt and like you freak it in your own style, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that's a whole different authentic code that you're working with.
That's your rain dance. That's part of you. That's your
Exactly.
raincoat for your rain dance.
As much as there's synthetic code, in order for us to upset the setup with the divine feminine energy, whatever codes we feel of conformity, we always have to go to the equal and opposite within the patriarchy to access the divine feminine energy. And
Mm-hmm.
that equal and opposite, this is the kicker, is going to be different for every single one of us.
Yeah.
We have to trust that each of us is willing to do that work. And that's why we got to gather in groups, in community, and share our process, share our experience,
Mm-hmm.
and support each other in finding what our unique equal and opposite expression is and all the multiple possibilities of expression in between,
Yeah.
because they're all a progression.
Yeah. Well, and again, we're talking about that balance, right? Again, the metaphor, the sun and the moon and the summer solstice. I think about the documentary Ruth Bader Ginsburg or whatever, Notorious
Mm.
RBG. I don't know what the name of the documentary was, but it was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. I watched it with my daughter. And she said that, on the Supreme Court, when she first got on, she was more conservative in her votes. But as the Supreme Court got more and more conservative, she became more and more liberal because it was her intention to stay moderate and keep the balance, and she needed to start to dissent more and vote differently in order to keep the power balance. And I really, admire that. And it speaks to what you're saying too with conformity. There's conformity is in any biological system, social system is not a healthy thing. There always has to be outliers and people questioning and people pushing the boundaries. That's growth. That's how you grow. We can't
Well, I mean,
survive.
it's just like it's a
Smother ourselves
natural
to death.
it's the natural progression of nature. It's the natural existence of all
Mm-hmm.
physics and quantum physics. There's
Yeah.
always an equal and opposite because we wouldn't know what anything is unless we knew its opposite. We
Mm-hmm.
understand we understand intention out of a place of tension.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and once we are able to dance with that, everything that feels like a trigger starts to feel like a treasure. Every trigger is a trailhead. It's like, oh shit, what's this here to teach me? Oh wow, like this trigger is deep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really having a response right now. what is on the other side of this? We start to normalize this movement. We start to be like, oh, cool. How do I ride this? How do I ride this wave? That's why I think it's really important to get out in the ocean. Shout out to Golden and what she does, with the polar
Polar
plunges.
plunge.
And I know also Chad with Wim Hof stuff,
Yeah.
it's like get into the real waves of nature and navigate riding those waves.
And speaking of which, Chad is saying we still got to hit our class together. He's talking about boxing. And
Yeah, we're doing a
Patricia from,
boxing dance trade.
Patricia from your class is sending hearts. Thank you, Patricia, for tuning in. And Golden saying, yeah, monkey see, monkey do. Yeah, for sure.
TikTok, monkey see, monkey do. She's probably talking about TikTok.
Upsetting the setup. So how can you upset? And it's not being like a rebel just for the sake of being oppositional either. It's being intentional about, your authentic voice, I think, and your authentic expression,
Right.
not just being
I think
oppositional.
defining rebel, right? And rebel is not defined by anything outside of you, according to the Kali Kaula, right? And the Shakti oracles. Being a rebel is questioning the own programming and norm within you. What is making you waver and understanding how to dance in that. This is what the Dasa Mahavidya and the shadow goddesses are really about, is that they're just like, hey, from the chaos is what we understand what peace is desired.
Yeah, well, that reminds me of, I was going to mention two scholars or philosophies that have brought this up, and one is Ken Wilber, who he considers himself one of the, or I don't know if he made this up or somebody made it up, one of the greatest living philosophers, because he's still alive. But he started integral theory, and it's kind of a like human consciousness, spiritual development theory, and he basically calls it. I guess what would be synonymous with God would be, he calls big love with a capital B and a capital L, big love. And he'd say big love has to have evil. It has to, because it can't survive. Like we can't have this just utopia or just everything's all shiny and light all the time, because you wouldn't go anywhere. And it's
we wouldn't even have the concept of full moon and new moon without the sun, right? And like it's different perspective on that. So it says a lot right there too. Like we can never, even in math, rational numbers, real numbers, the numbers that we know as numbers are rational numbers. The only reason that we know that they're rational numbers is because there's a select few that are irrational. I'm gonna give you another one. The only reason that we know that nature is sacred is because the geometry and the symmetry that we see in nature, there's always one line that's off, or a couple select few that are quote unquote imperfect, and it helps us see how all the other lines are equidistant from one another. You get what I'm saying? And so it's like when we create yantras or we create mandalas with the human consciousness and awareness, it's like so symmetrical. That's symmetry. That's not sacred geometry. You get what I'm saying? Sacred is that there's something that's off that allows us to see what is on.
Interesting. Yeah, I never heard that perspective before. That's really interesting. Yeah, so I mean so that kind of ties into the other philosopher who I was going to bring up was Carl Jung, because he studied mandalas and looking at meditating at the higher vision, and he also, I feel, was the divine feminine response to Freud's masculine call. He was like, hang on, like, this is so analytical, linear, like, you're going deep into this dream analysis, but there's also this whole other world that is kind of mystical, and we're all connected in this interesting way, right? And he also said, when asked about God, he had this experience as a child where he was questioning religion because he grew up with religious parents, and in poverty as well. So he had a bit of a stressful childhood, and he was walking by this cathedral, and it was so beautiful, and he would notice like it was gold. And then one day he saw this vision of like God on top of it, and like a big turd like coming down and smashing the cathedral. And he said what he realized in that moment when he saw that vision was that he had learned a secret that maybe not too many people knew, and that's that God would destroy his own creation. And that's part of life. That's part of human existence, right? And that was not what he was taught in the Bible or whatever else. And so he was a little bit terrified by that thought, but also somewhat like, he talks about that as being probably the most pivotal moment of his life, which is fascinating with everything that he's done. But again, it's that what you're saying, it's the balance, it's keeping the balance. And so I don't know, I'm aware of the time, and I kind of want to bring it back down now to the everyday a little bit. Not that this is an everyday, but it's very philosophical. Totally. I want to bring it into the practical, I guess, and about relationships, because I know people love hearing, these perspectives and that, and they also want to see the examples in their own life, right? In their own relationships and what's going on with these concepts. And one of the things that I posted about on Instagram with the show is this phenomena that I've seen in men, guy friends, clients, male clients that I have, where they're saying, I'm really looking for a queen. I really love powerful women. I'm attracted to powerful women. But then one comes along and they're not able to hang on to her. They're not able to do the dance with her. And a lot of times it's because some of these patriarchal, the setup comes and rears its ugly head, and it gets in the way of these relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't even know it's happening until it happens. And one of the things that I see is that the women will be frustrated because she's like, oh, not you too. There it is again, this sort of thing. And then the men aren't always aware of what just happened because it's more internal. Every person has their blind spots, their shadow, their stuff that they're not aware of. Again, speaking of Carl Jung. And he will often then go to an older relationship or even a new relationship where there's lots of drama and just, maybe a woman who's not quite in her queen status yet. Mm-hmm. And that is a sure recipe for trauma of one or all parties to go into that. And so I'm curious what you think about what's driving that behavior of him saying he wants a queen, but he can't hang. Because I feel like some of it sometimes is this patriarchal setup notion of he feels like he's got to be the rescuer or the hero. He's not used to co-rulership, maybe in some ways. Maybe he's never seen it modeled. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe none of us really know what that looks like in these modern times. Mm-hmm. Co-rulership and equal partnership. And then I think just, whether it's a man or a woman, I think when we're not ready to fully show up and do the work and take responsibility, it can be easier to just fall back into chaos and the games and the circus. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think is going on in that situation?
Wow, that's great. I think, well, two things came to my mind right away where I do agree with what you're saying, co-rulership and what it looks like today. I think we need to be really open to the idea that like co-rulership, co-partnership, right? Like interdependent relating, open and honest communication. Like these are all new ways of looking at relationship that must be approached. Like if you want to do things differently, again, you have to be willing to do things differently. So I
Mhm.
do think that in today's world, dating, whether it be queer dating or homosexual dating, straight dating, which is so weird. I hate that term straight. I've been laughing at that term for a while now. I'm like, it's funny. What would be crooked dating or slanted dating, curved dating? Like, why straight? Like, is that really from an
It's
idiotic concept that straight is like normal? Like,
the
that's
opposition
so
of
dumb.
queer and straight. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, um, so 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 that's one thing that's really coming through is that we do have to be willing. Like, we're in a moment of exploring the divine feminine and masculine energies as they are both within us. Most of the planet is waking up to this wisdom, this ancient wisdom that's kind of been, spun in a different way for a while. And so, yeah, relating does have to be a totally new way now. And so that means that both partners have to look at what dominant energy they're bringing into their relationship. If the goddess, and what I'm going to say is goddess, is the feminine energy within the female acknowledged body, right? That's the goddess. If the goddess is in one position and the god, which is the masculine energy presented in a male acknowledged body, it's like they both have to realize which energy is dominant. You may have in a goddess body that the male energy is dominant, like you're talking about single moms.
Mm-hmm.
That's common, right? Because they have to step into like the battle of like just
She's
the
tired, y'all. She's tired.
exactly. It's like enough is
She doesn't
enough,
want to be
right?
here.
That was what came up last night. Enough is enough. It's like,
Yeah.
just like, how much more are you gonna fucking do this? And it's like,
Yeah.
that is definitely, that that part of that. Like if you're feeling that, that is because your male self is dominant and you're experiencing that. And also it's like, the what we always want to do is we're always paying attention within the patriarchy of what is the male energy feeling, what is the male self feeling, because that's what's going to allow us to access our feminine to balance out that imbalance of masculine energy. Now, in order to make sure that like we've got our feminine balanced out in relationship when we're attracting partners, two things. The feminine energy in a partnership is always choosing. So it doesn't matter, but whoever is dominant in their feminine energy, they're
Mm-hmm.
choosing.
Mm-hmm.
They're choosing.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever's dominant in the masculine energy is in the state of deciding how they want to be chosen.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a male energy dominant person who's like on the front line, is the protector, is the savior, like holding shit down, making sure things are together, raw, get it done, purpose, schedule, oh,
Yeah.
like thunder, thunder, thundercats. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like you're a fucking like superhero every motherfucking day. We've all been there. That is definitely going to be male dominant energy alive in you. And that means you are naturally in a space of wanting to be chosen. Now, if you are in a feminine dominant space, which is like you are ready to be taken care of, you are ready to kind of go into creative healing space, you're ready to do the deep movement work and the deep, kind of just unveiling and peeling away the layers, getting into the cocoon, that metamorphosis stage of like you're kind of in your breakdown and you need to like step away and slow down, then that means you're definitely in the feminine energy,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're just like you're in a space where like you're channeling a book, you're channeling website, you're channeling like your entrepreneurial business, you're fucking creating a baby. This is you are in the feminine
Mm-hmm.
energy, feminine dominant energy place. And what you want to really be tuning into is, what are you choosing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so we have work, my partner and I, Shofar and I, have work that's called Arousing the Goddess. And it works around, looking at, when you're in the feminine energy, and you're in the goddess space and you're doing the breath movement sound work and you're ready to be in the feminine energy of choosing what are those practices within each energy center that's going to kind of like activate more of the choosing element. A lot of us powerful women honestly are more male energy dominant, and therefore we are attracting lots of feminine energy, which is powerful because they're amazing men that are emotionally present.
Mm-hmm.
However, we also have to be willing to then flip the paradigm within a relationship
Mm-hmm.
and be like, okay, it doesn't fucking matter who has a penis and who has a vagina. Who is in the feminine energy state? I
Today.
am cocooning
Yeah.
you. I got you. And then you get them. They create the fucking book of a lifetime. They create the goddamn podcast and the courses. They're healing their families. They're fucking affecting their communities. And you're able to hold it down for them. And like they feel their success and they're like, oh shit, I'm activating.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my Lakshmi. I'm in my abundance code. I'm in my Oshun vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. It's my turn to hold space for you. You
Mm-hmm.
get to go into your feminine. Seesaw. And
Mm-hmm.
we change the energy, the circuitry. And now, who doesn't matter if you have a penis or a vagina, whoever is in, you just switch those roles and you get to switch and support each other in the
Mm-hmm.
masculine and feminine, just like the full moon and the new moon. If we would just tap into nature, we would see that like everything has the duality so we can be unique and creative in our expression and figure
Mm-hmm.
out how we want to play with the duality.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime we are told what we have to do with duality, what is right and what is wrong, that should put up a red flag of our kundalini consciousness and awakening of conformity.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't feel like it's allowing you to be fully expressed, think
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah. Well, and then that's something too, because, oh, and then Chad's saying, ha ha ha, love this Kirti. I don't know which part he was referring to at this point because I wasn't paying attention to the
Me
comment.
neither. Oh
That's why
no.
I need your help. Next time, get it on your phone too. That we can both be looking at him. And Nikita said is
Oh
giving us the prayer
yay.
and the rose and the sparkles.
That's
Thanks
my
for
sister right
thanks for
there.
being here, Nikita. Um, so yeah, okay. That process sounds beautiful, but the setup, what gets in the way? And I feel like women are more bilingual with switching back and forth between masculine and feminine because they've had to, they've starting back maybe even before this, but definitely during World War II when the men went to war and women are like, okay, let me go be Rosie the Riveter and put the, build the planes. And then she's like, hey, I kind of like getting a paycheck and not having to like have baby puke and diarrhea all over me all day. So maybe I'll just stay in this job and, and have a balance and part-time parent when I get home. And, it was like, you get, because being a stay-at-home mom can be mind numbing. If you're doing it 100% of the time, it can be mind numbing, right? It can be it's a different kind of fatigue. And I've never done it for longer than 4 months. My longest maternity leave was 4 months before I went back to work. And I would have liked to have done it longer than that, to be honest, but that was my only taste. So I'm not even speaking from experience, but more so what I hear from moms that are full-time stay-at-home moms. I've always had a bit of a mix of career and being a mom. But she's had to go back and forth most of the time. There's
Right.
she's had to go back and forth. And I feel like men are now starting to be more like homemakers. That's more common than it maybe was at a certain point in time. And then of course, I've also had clients who are thruples and they have two adults working and they make, they got a lot of good money coming in. And then one of the adults is staying at home and caretaking for all the children. So that obviously is a very stable structure in that sense of the word. I don't know how it works with, so much with all the other energetics going on, but why is it that, or how is it maybe might be the better question, that men can be more bilingual? and what's keeping them from being more bilingual now in this day and
Hmm.
age? Is there a resistance to, like, I think you said something like, women don't mind walking around and we can have like big dick energy and we're like, yeah, like whatever. And there's that song by Todrick, Dick This Big, which I love. It's hilarious. And his album is femasculine. So perfect time to, like, he's playing a lot with gender integration and dynamics and owning both and non-binary and all this stuff. But yeah, so women can have this big dick energy, but you pointed out that not too many men can have like this, like, powerful yoni energy. So why is that emasculating, and why is big dick energy not defeminizing for us?
Well, I think it comes down to the heart, ultimately. It comes down to heart work for our gods, our god men, and those of us who acknowledge that, we believe we're in male bodies. It's like it really does come down to the heart, for and according to, tantric and Hindu is a wisdom, the female, and really the female, the goddess, is born with third eye wide open. One of the original meanings of wearing even a bindi was to protect the third eye, to cover it, because it's wide open and it sees
Like
everything.
sunglasses for the third eye.
Yeah, stunner
Perfect.
shades,
Get your
stunner
get your
shades.
stunner shades on, Cindy.
I gotta create a stunner shade bindi. That is
I
good.
think
That's
mine
very
needs an
good.
eye exam. They say after 40, but no, this is probably
You're
different
like, you go to
for
the
the
eye
third
doctor, you're like, do you give third eye exams?
eye. Too funny.
Um, I don't even know if I remember what I was talking
We're
about.
talking about yoni. Can they embody the yoni
Oh,
energy?
right,
And then the
right.
heart. You said our god
Yeah,
men
I think it comes
have the
down to the
heart.
heart. I think
Mm,
most of the men that are masculine bodied, penis bodied men, with masculine energy, because it is a patriarchy. It's generations of a hardening of the feminine. You know what I'm saying? Like for a woman, like we are born with. I always talk about this. This yoni space it's a gender neutral space. It actually is not vagina. That's a misconstrued conception of what yoni is. Yoni is a sacred space of creation. The truth
mm,
is that I think men have such a hard time owning that,
mm,
because somehow probably somebody created the story and published or wrote it and created a teaching in the West that, that's traditionally what it means. But the truth is, like, the more ancient you go in tantric texts, over and over again, it talks about the yoni as sacred space of creation. The reason why we associate it with the pussy and a vagina is that because it's an open portal where birth is given. And
mhm,
so it's been revered, because it's
mm,
given birth
right.
to another human being. But the concept of yoni and the womb space, you don't have to have a uterus, nor it's the concept of Shakti.
Mhm,
Yoni is Shakti, Lingam is Shiva,
mhm,
right? And
mhm,
from the empty space of creation, from the galaxies, the darkest of the skies, the star and the light is seen. Shiva is created. Even the consciousness to create something, it comes from this open vastness. That is yoni. Every single one of us have that in us. That's
mhm.
the feminine energy. That's the Shakti energy. However, we need more men to fucking own their yonis. But it's so difficult, It's like,
Yeah.
I get it, but it's the program. It's the
Well,
program.
and I want to say
And
this too,
yeah,
because
queer men will own it real quick. And I think that that's another whole part of the social programming that's going on. That's it.
they will own it, but they'll also be comfortable with their masculinity. I think the problem is anybody's stuck somewhere and you can't get to the other side. So I'll say, like, if there's a man that's in his yoni energy, but not like the healthy yoni, like the kind of like toxic femininity, the victimhood, I call it toxic femininity, but like
Yeah, sure.
victimhood, or I can't do this, or they're like just withdrawing and just kind of like not really, like, learned helplessness sort of thing, like that's a big turnoff, right? Or like a man that this is a huge turnoff for me. It's like, I'm a single mom and I've worked my ass off, like just through, being working since I was 14, degrees, whatever else. And whatever I've created, whatever I have in my life, I've really, really worked for. And then when men come around and they're like, oh, well, she's got resources or she's got money, or maybe it's just an assumption that they think that I have money, right? Oh, well, then I'll let her pay for dinner, or I'll let her buy me this thing, or I'll let her. That doesn't empower me. That's not empowering. Like, that is not my form of empowerment. It's equal flow, right? Of energy. And that has nothing to do with embodying your femininity as being treated by a woman who's got her shit together. So that, for me, I think men get this confused sometimes about when we're talking about masculine, feminine dynamics. And I also, here's a positive example. I think when a man can drop, like you said, the heart energy, can he be present with that softness? Can he be open and soft? And even if you come across a little fiery or whatever, can he kind of soothe and be the balm, right? And kind of hold that space? I guess presence would be a masculine energy though too. But just being open, I guess, to and vulnerable, that is super attractive.
Right.
And for me, I can definitely be male energy dominant because I have to. There's times when I have to. I have to get shit done. Like, I have to get the damn thing done, right? Not my natural state. I have a lot of masculine energy, but I'm more of a feminine being. I'm a feminine dominant being at the end of the day. And I love when a man or a friend, a woman, comes with enough masculine energy that allows me to sometimes fall back into my femininity. And my female friends and I do this all the time. We'll go back and forth with being leader and follower, or whatever you want to call it, to treat each other, whether it's to dinner or this, or I brought you some flowers, or this sort of thing. And it feels so good to be able to go back and forth with that, right? And so I feel like, if you are a masculine energy dominant man, can you bounce back into your feminine to get the job done? And then if you're a feminine energy woman, can you bounce back into your masculine to get the job done? But the problem, I think, is when we're in our non-dominant energy because we have to be, right? For whatever reason. And I think that's a lot of what the modern day setup, as we're trying to rebalance the setup, right? The patriarchal setup. That's what I'm thinking about. And I don't know if I was so articulate that people can understand. So I apologize. It's getting late. So thank you for hanging in there with us. And Golden says, Nikita saying hilarious. I think what we were talking about, the third eye. Nikita's of Indian descent too, so she gets it, I'm sure. The art of awakening, yes. When a woman is so in her masculine, it confuses men. Yes, exactly. The art of awakening. Me too, Natasha. We single mamas are so in our masculine out of necessity. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's not like we want to be like doing this and scheduling all the things and all over the place. It's that somebody has to do it, right? And so
so it sounds like you have to get clear also, as it's this whole concept of understanding the play between masculine and feminine energies, right? All day, throughout the day, we have the opportunity to play and bounce that energy back and forth and dance within it. So we have to start to see life as something that we say in Sanskrit is rasa lila. It's rasa is the flavor, it's the juice of your food, it's the emotion, and lila is play. So like playing with the emotion, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you're constantly in the masculine, mm-hmm. you are going to be attracting. It's what's confusing for men is that if they're wanting to step in and mm-hmm. be, a king, and they come in and they're like, there's already a king in this palace. Shit, there ain't enough room for me. Right? So there's that fine-tuning place that if you are a woman that's trying to attract king energy, right? Mm-hmm. If you're trying to attract king energy in a partner, there's also this part of you that, for you, king energy is also inclusive of emotional capacity, mm-hmm. nurturing, and like helping, making sure that they can fall into their feminine. So that means you also have to have a balance of masculine energy that's going to let your king energy feel comfortable enough to do the healing that it's
Mm-hmm.
going to take to let them be more feminine, because the feminine work, when
Yes.
we do the feminine healing work, doesn't matter if you have a penis or a vagina, but whether you're in king or queen energy, when we're doing that work, that's actually what's facilitating getting clear with our speech and our expression in our communication with each
Mm-hmm.
other. See, when we're able to talk to each other and say and own, like, damn, I'm in my feminine, I'm in my female self is feeling hella hurt right now. And when a man who rocks like a penis and is been programmed by a patriarchy that like that's weak of them, but a man can actually be like, shit, like that actually hurts me. I actually feel that pretty deeply right now, and is
Mm-hmm.
able to express emotionally
The
to
expression.
a
Yeah.
right,
That's
to
the
a
important piece. Yeah.
maybe a queen energy that then
Mhm.
is like, oh, I need to come into holding space. I need to come into my masculine. So, as human beings, we have to deal with all parts of us. And we always know, there's the magical number of three, but really our brain is comprised of three parts too, right? We have the reptilian, we have the
Mhm.
limbic, and the neocortex. So, like, as human beings, like physical touch or, energy healing, it's wonderful and beautiful. But then there's also this dynamic of communication and spell casting and speaking our truth and learning how to hold space for each other as we navigate the unwinding of the program. Because the truth is, as our king counterparts, as much as we, as queen like energy, are unwinding ancestral generational trauma and wounding
Mhm.
around sovereign freedom and just being able to be like feminine receptors of just abundance and just being able to live life freely, our king counterparts have also been dealing with generations of pushing down more and more of their feminine energy in order to be successful in the patriarchy, according to a code that like we're
Yeah.
all just really following.
Yes.
So we have to be willing to question the norm. So the first step in doing any of this work is you've got to know and tune into where is your energy playing out, and understand that in every moment you have the opportunity to switch gears. In every
Yeah.
breath you have an
Hold that,
opportunity to
hold
play.
that thought. I want to back up just a little bit. Because I'm
Mm.
afraid I'm going to lose it.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
thinking a
good.
couple
You
things.
got to cut me off, girl.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the permission. No. Um, First of all, what you said was so deep. I hope that people are still following. And Chad was saying too, when I mentioned that before, you definitely were. Thank you, Chad, for that feedback.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a visual person. So as you're speaking, I'm imagining all these little shapes and things fitting together and counterparts. And I'm also hearing echoes of conversations from my clients, both female and male, and my close friends like you. I'm a consultant, a relationship consultant to my close friends much of the time, as we are to each other as well. And so I hear this from women, because when you say, she's in her masculine too much, she can't attract this king. And so what the women are saying, especially the single mamas who are like, I'm not necessarily masculine, I've had to be, I've been built this way, kind of thing. Or many of them were married to a man who never really stepped up.
Right.
That's what built them even more than being single. Like, they're doing less work even being single sometimes. They just lost a dependent.
Right,
But
right. Serious.
so, okay, so they're in their masculine, but they're not willing to back down, because and just kind of like create a vacuum for
Right.
this king to come in, because then the work doesn't get done. The shit doesn't
Right.
get
And the
done.
family could
She
fall
gotta,
apart, the
yeah,
family
so she
unit.
got to keep juggling. So I think what happens, she's juggling, and then a king shows up, right? But I think a lot of times, sometimes anyway, he thinks he's a king and he wants to be king of the castle, but he hasn't proven that he's actually a king and not a knight or a jester yet. And so she's not going to stop juggling until she sees that he's really a king. And then when he shows up as a king, she'll be like, oh, okay. And then she can kind of back down. So it's this dance in a little bit. And so to your point about moment to moment, But then also, I think what can happen, and of course, there's still going to be the, he is a king. He's showing up as a king, and she's just like doesn't trust it. She just can keep juggling, and not kind of let him maybe take some of the load, or help co-rule, or however you want to say it. But on the male side too, I think that they, well, I don't know. I lost my thought about that. Golden
Well,
saying,
yeah, I mean, I think Golden can totally resonate with you because you both are definitely walking super similar lines in that way, and I totally get that. Like, there's
Mhm.
also that place of like, well, shit, if I was to fall completely in my feminine, like, fuck, everything will just fall apart. Who's gonna pay the bills then? Like, who's gonna handle all this shit? And I totally get it, but also understand that the nature of the feminine doesn't just mean that it's like, oh yeah, it's like that's the whole kind of thing that happened with like the law of attraction. Like within
Mhm.
attraction is the word action. All right.
Mhm.
So even when you're in the law, even when you're in the zone of attraction, it's like, what are the action moves that you're taking so
Mhm.
that your feminine is literally beaming in. Okay. The masculine
Mhm.
energy is always electric. The feminine
Mhm.
is magnetic.
Mhm.
So it's like, what are the things you're doing to heighten the vibration of your magnetism? And I would also
Shout
say,
out to your class.
I would also say that like, I think that we're at a time where human beings we're realizing like we're not meant to do things alone.
Yeah,
That
for
it
sure.
would
That's the
be
problem.
so gorgeous to
Biggest problem.
see, yeah, to see women who are being, we can easily create communities where we could help each other who are in their masculine, in their feminine, and balance that and actually help each other beam in the mates that they need. How
Yeah,
can we
for
help
sure.
each other as deep friendships, partnerships, as deep human connection? How
Mhm.
can we actually be the masculine and feminine representation that's needed on this planet? Like, why can't we explore a whole different way of relating that maybe would allow the patriarchy to kind of crumble because all of a sudden it's not based on, homosexual marriages.
I think that is the healthiest societal structure. And it goes back to communal living, to be honest, because what you're saying, I have created in my friendships. I have wonderful guy friends, wonderful female friends, and they each embody a very beautiful balance of internal feminine and masculine. That's kind of my like standard of who's in my life, right? They kind of can do that. And I feel through those friendships and those nurturing that I'm able to balance that. Where it gets out of balance is the day to day, right?
Right.
Day to day, when you have children, when you have a family. Golden knows what I'm talking about. And so if I'm spending one day a week with these friends, or I'm chatting with them on the phone, that's great. It helps. But in the day to day living, you need community. You just need, like you said, that was the essence of it. You're not meant to be alone. And then looping it back to what I said in the Instagram post about the story of Isis, how, Set, Osiris, her husband's jealous brother, dismembered him and chopped him all up. And I didn't say it on Instagram because I thought I would get, the algorithm would block me or put me in Facebook or Instagram jail. But she basically was like, went to fetch his penis in the Nile River, and kind of like glued him back together so they could conceive a child, which I see as symbolizing a new world, a new way of being, a new way of
Right.
relating, right? And it is patriarchy. It's the compartmentalization. Like you said, patriarchy smashes and smushes men, and puts them in a little box, and they can't move outside this little box. They can't express their feelings. They can't embody any of their natural healing feminine energy to be able to grow and heal and change and nurture themselves, because that would be too feminine or not masculine enough. And now we have this whole other like counterculture thing, which is talking about softening men and feminizing men. And I mean, and that some of that is happening with the pesticides too. So there's that hormonally. But she glues together this man. She reintegrates him. She takes him from being compartmentalized, literally, and puts him back together in his wholeness by
Mm.
offering her feminine power and strength. And like you said, healing, right? She's the goddess of healing, of magic, of all of the things that we create in your class, in your classes, and my daughter's name is Isis. And how
I
crazy
know, I
that
love that.
that I named her Isis before I even knew anything about Isis. It's just that the name kept coming to me, coming to me, coming to me. I was like, what is this name? Okay, baby, I'll name you Isis then. And so then I've learned more and more about this goddess as my daughter has grown. But and she does have so many of the same qualities, very healing, very powerful, very nurturing, very like, like that's it. That's how it is. Very like, she commands a certain kind of authority, but a softness. And so it's very interesting how energy moves like this. But that's the piece is, how do we be put back together? Whether it's, if you're a man and you need more integration and wholeness, if you're a woman and you need to come back into balance, but more so to loop it all the way back around to what we were talking about in the beginning, come back together as a community. We are compartmentalized right now. There's so much division and so much separation and just at each other, which is exactly what the patriarchal program is. That's exactly what it does, is a divide and conquer. So
Right.
if
I
we are
mean,
working,
I think to come back as a community, it's like you have to look at what do we all have in common. And the one thing we all do have in common is that like we're human beings
and we all want love.
navigating this lifetime, and we all have shadows, we all have lights, and what ultimately connects all of us is our emotional management, or the management of our emotions, and how we interact with each other based on our management of our emotions, from how we're receiving everything that's happening outside of us.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could, to come back together, we have to understand that when we are feeling obliterated and split apart, we are in that Shakti space of vast blackness. We are in that space of like, what is going to be birthed from this? It's literally getting defragged. It's getting burned to its like most basic molecules and particles of particles of particles. And from that, the gluing and bringing back the pieces together, it's the Shiva, it's the consciousness, it's the awareness of a new way to be. And it reminds me of that beautiful Japanese practice where they break the dishes and then glue the pieces of the broken dish back together with golden paint.
Yeah,
And
I love that metaphor.
yeah, it's just like, I think that that's what it's about. And it's always reminding us that like in a dualistic world, which we cannot blame ourselves, depending on what you believe, we've it's in our DNA. We have been programmed to like, once we choose to be born, to be dualistic. And so we see things in right or wrong, up and down, left and right. And the challenge of this lifetime, and the challenge to call in the divine feminine, to call in the Kundalini awareness, is to look at that number 3, is to be like 1, 2, what is 3? Like, and 3 is like, if you have equal and opposite, what's in the middle? What new thing can be created?
Yeah.
And always just being in that mode as much as possible. And I mean, you can start really slow. If you are a single mom that is raising kids, that's having to show up on a fucking daily, it's like little steps. What would it look like to drop into your feminine a little bit more today and communicate that with your kids? And like, see what that even looks like, if they'd be willing to support you. I'm sure they would if you were like, you know what, I want to make sure I paint today. I want to make sure like I get in the water, like would you be willing to get in the water with me today? Or would you be, little steps, because see, this is the thing. We're reprogramming decades and generations of not reconnecting, of not building in community, of not being poly-hearted. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
It's not about the genitals, but just being open to fucking real connection where we take care of each other.
Yes.
It's been generations where that's been worked out of us, generations of marriage, generations of women being fucking burned for being connected to the nature, and wizards and powerful men fucking being burned at the stake, down ass white folks getting killed. And all these people who are down with consciousness, we're dealing with decades of programming.
Yeah.
So a beautiful way to start is little by little and learning how to get clear with communicating your needs.
Yeah.
And understanding your emotions and finding the fucking people who are open ears, like they're willing to listen. Stop communicating your needs to emptiness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
To somebody
Get
who's
really
not
clear with
to
that
somebody
part.
who's not listening, not present, or can't even hear. I mean, and you
That's
talked
just
about
replaying the pattern that you were talking about, that pattern.
yeah.
That's just you and your ego needing to prove to you that, see, men never show up. See, community is shit. See, I'm alone. See, nobody loves me. That's just that shit. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you want to start to expand out of that.
Yeah. Reinforcing the story versus actually processing and releasing that, being heard and acknowledged. So, I mean, that's, again, my group starts September 13th. That's what we're doing. We're not getting caught into the story. We're talking about the expression of emotions. And in fact, my role as a facilitator in that group is, if you go into the story, it's like, nope, what are you feeling? Like,
Right.
what's coming up right now? And you start to realize, even me as a facilitator, as I'm leading this group, and it's very small, only about 10 to 12 people. We're so conditioned to communicate in that way. And like you said, to kind of like hide and compartmentalize and attach to a narrative or a movie or a story or a thing, instead of actually being aware of our feelings. And so it takes practice. And so if you're interested in that group, definitely contact me. You see my website right here. If you are looking at developing community, a bigger, broader network of community, definitely contact Kirti. We both do one-on-one work too. So if you want to know how, and even when you know the how, you can't do it on your own. You need accountability partners. You need a coach. You need somebody to help you through. I have a coach. You have a coach. I have a coach right now. We coach each other. I can't. The results that I get from hiring a coach are just like so phenomenal that I'm like, I always have to have one. I don't know why I even take breaks without one. Well, I know it's like investments, right? So it's like, how much can you invest? But definitely connect with one of us if you're wanting to go deeper on this stuff. And yeah, I love what you're saying. Like, paint, get in the water. I'm homeschooling now. I have a little more flexibility to be in that feminine. And I did enjoy today, the day one, even though it was very chaotic and the kitchen is a disaster.
Maybe we should do an episode on homeschooling your children.
I think so. I think that's going to have to be part of Goddess Vibrations this season for sure. But I'm waking up at 6 a.m. tomorrow for your class, and that will get me going and, getting throughout the rest of the day. To integrate my masculine and feminine energies. But what I did want to do is ask if anybody had any questions or anything else to say. Golden is saying, yes, being the sole adult in the home is not sustainable. We are not meant to do this on our own. Living in village style community is ideal, with men protecting the perimeter. Yeah, it is so much of a looping back to ancient wisdom with modern, I always say, modern science or modern ideals. It's like we're improving, and there's still so many good nuggets from prior generations or from what's always worked kind of thing. That's why we still have traditional Chinese medicine. How old is that ancient healing practice? And that came out of the divine feminine. That was before they cut bodies open and looked at it. They just mapped out the whole body from meditating in a cave and downloading it. It's so crazy when we think about how these things are sustainable and hold up for so long, and we loop back around.
Yeah, I pretty much feel that science is a way to prove spirituality.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. That's what my PhD is. That's what it drew me in, because I knew all this stuff already. I didn't need to be proven, but I wanted to have the research to be like, oh yeah, and like throw it out there anytime somebody else told me I was crazy or woo woo or whatever else. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. What else do we need to say, communicate, share before we wrap this up, because now we said we are going to try to keep it shorter, and here we go again. It's been 2 hours.
Well, I
So
guess
much
we'll
to
take
say.
this as this was like the
Woo,
episode
the
that we
opener.
launched with. So, we've
Yeah,
taken the summer off,
yeah,
and
yeah.
there's a lot to
There's a lot
express.
to say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel pretty good. I feel like if people would have had questions, hopefully they would have asked them.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Let me
I
just.
know there's like 7 minutes until 10 p.m., which is pretty cool. But if I'd say, yeah, if there's no questions coming through, like maybe we should wrap it up with a pretty bow and send everybody with sweet dreams, lucid dreaming.
Yeah, and yeah, so make sure sweet dreams. Contact Kirti for her group, her monthly membership. Contact me if you're interested in my mind body healing, trauma healing program that starts in September. Please get on both of our newsletters, because that is the most consistent way to keep in touch with us. Even with the show, when we post about what the next show is going to be, we each send it out on our newsletters. I know you have like a text chain that you do, Kirti. I'm still on Instagram. And so definitely sign up for our newsletter so that you can stay part of this community that we're talking about, because I know both of us have been very conscious, and we were talking to Golden about this yesterday too, building community and creating a different way of raising this feminine energy, but also collaborative energy. And so obviously now, if you watch this whole episode, you know what we mean by feminine energy. And I would like to go deeper, but we got a whole season. I would like to go deeper into more, the relationships and
Yeah, let's do that. And
yeah.
maybe people could like also DM you questions
Yeah,
and
I would love that. Definitely DM me, email me, text me if you got my cell phone, and questions, issues, concerns. And then also we're looking for, I'll say it again, we're looking for live guests that want to be coached or talk about they get some laser coaching or talk about their issue on the show. So if you'd like to be on the show with Kirti and I and get some laser coaching, definitely go to my link, natashaedwina.com/goddess-vibrations. And you can apply there and put your question in. And if you get accepted, we'll let you know beforehand and send you the links that you can pipe into our live broadcast. So that I'm looking forward to that. That should be a lot of fun. And wanted to say thank you for everybody for supporting this episode. It's been really fun. Kirti, you blew my mind as always, like just going deep into the spirals. And I honestly, you'll be hearing soon what next week's episode is. And then in 2 weeks, Kirti will be back with me again, and hopefully we'll have a live guest.
right on. Love you all. Peace and love.
Yeah. Good night, everyone. Appreciate you so much.